Lacrosse community, my name's Ryan Berns. I'm the president of Lacrosse Leadership Institute. I'm so excited for our guest today. As a reminder, this is a podcast to talk with everyone who loves lacrosse about the skills that you gain from the sport. It empowers us all to live the lives that we want to live, and our guest today is living large. Cade van Raaphorst is an Arizona native. He's West Coast Stars, born and raised, playing in the Valley at Desert Vista Lacrosse, went on to play at Duke to be an All-American, and he's an All-Star in the Premier Lacrosse League. Every single time I get to view Cade's social media or wherever it is, I see him representing the hotbed of Arizona lacrosse, and so I'm so grateful for Cade to join us today. Cade, can you start by just telling us a little bit more about your story, how you got into lacrosse, and how that developed into where you are today?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks again for having me. Looking forward to talking with you guys and sharing some of the things that I've learned and some of the things that I've been fortunate enough to do with the sport of lacrosse. So when I was in fourth grade, a guy named Matt Rakowski came out and invited a bunch of kids to play lacrosse, and I didn't really know what it was, but one of my best friends, Anthony Abadessa, was playing, so borrowed one of his stick and came out to the field. Started playing defense basically right away. I was pretty big compared to the other kids at that time, and kind of figured I should have a long pole in my hands. So fourth grade through high school, I was football and lacrosse, and those are like the two most fun sports to me by far. Dabbled in basketball, but that wasn't my thing. So by the time I got to eighth grade, I had seen some interest from some schools and had gone to enough recruiting events to know that there was a pretty good chance that I could play lacrosse in college. And, for a time I still wanted to play football in college. I thought that was, going to be my route, given my family history and my grandpa, my dads and my uncles, well, that's what they did. So I figured I would follow suit. And then some of the schools I started talking to were a lot better than the schools I was talking to for football. So it kind of fell in line, and was fortunate enough to receive interest from Duke, and it was a done deal. So looked at a couple other schools, but the end goal was always Duke once the recruiting process started. And once I was fortunate enough to receive that opportunity, I did everything I could to make it happen.
That's amazing to hear that you identify the opportunity that you have and do everything you can to get there as well, because I think that's the grit that really brings you to the next level. And part of that, Cade, and the next question is, what is your pinnacle lacrosse moment, or what are some of the pinnacle lacrosse moments that you have had experience so far?
Yeah, I've been really fortunate in this sport. God's given me a lot of talent, and I try to stay humble through it all. But through it, I've been able to do some incredible things. I've had the opportunity to play in the Under Armour All-American game. I've had the opportunity to play in 2 Final Fours, a national championship game, and now to play professionally and to even make the All-Star game as a rookie. So it's hard to pick one. Even the 2 state championships with Desert Vista stick out. But I would say and I've said this ever since it happened, my most memorable lacrosse moment, my most fun game I've ever played in, was the quarterfinals my senior year against Notre Dame in New York. Just the entire game, the ups and downs, the emotions and everything just summed up, I felt, like my lacrosse career. I wish I could have put a ring on my finger at the end of my junior or senior year, but I wouldn't trade any of it for the world. So it's hard to pick one, but I would honestly say just the camaraderie that you build on the teams is something that is the pinnacle of my playing career. Rather than one event, it's the guys that I've been fortunate enough to play with. The guys who I'm going to be friends with for the rest of my life. And the lacrosse community is pretty unique in that a lot of us are similar, but we also have our differences. And getting to build those relationships is by far and away the best part about the sport.
I'm glad you brought that up, Cade. I think it's so unique that we can all have different experiences with lacrosse. We can all have different upbringings. We have a common bond, but as we've seen time and time again, people say culture, but it's the people, the community that you have that really resonate and create those memories. A big part of this conversation that I want to have, though, is around leadership and how lacrosse helps develop you into the man you are today. How do you define leadership?
It's funny. We've had this conversation. We have it a bunch at Duke. I was fortunate enough to be elected captain my senior year. And as a part of that, there's a leadership program that they do there that, we'll go to overnight trips over the weekends with all the captains or the leaders per grade on each team. And so we kind of build out what it means to be a leader from, with the perspective of our team. Like, what do we want our captains to look like? What do we want them to show, or how do we want them to lead? And I think it's recognizing your strengths as a leader. I've seen guys like my roommate, Brad Smith, who's a fellow captain. He's one of those guys that's going to talk to you one-on-one, and he's always going to make the play, but he might not be the one who's yelling and screaming and hoorah, versus me. I'm more of one of those guys that's more vocal as a leader. I like to talk, and I like to communicate with guys when I think they're doing things well and when I think they're doing things wrong. So I think it's recognizing your strengths and playing to those. Not one way is better than another. And I actually read a pretty good book called The Captain's Class, and it looks at some of the best teams that have ever played in the history of sports, and analyzes like why they are as successful as they are and the different leaders that they had on those teams. So it shows a lot of different ways to lead, but I think the overall desire for your team to have success rather than the individual self is a huge piece of that. In addition to, staying humble, recognizing when you need to be a servant, recognizing when you need to step up and take control of things and out of control situations. And, even as a captain, you're not just a captain on the field, you're a captain outside. It's dealing with kids when when they need help in school, or if something goes wrong, on a weekend. You need to be able to step up in certain situations and recognize right from wrong. So I don't know if there's one definition for what, is leadership or what it means to be a leader, but I would say that some of those things, just recognizing in situations when you need to step in and how to handle things, as well as showing empathy and relating to other people in certain ways. So that's always the kind of the way that I've looked at it through my experiences being a captain on high school lacrosse teams through college. So I think the more that you can figure out what your leadership style is, and maybe you're not a captain, but maybe you can be, you have leaders on your team that are not captains as well. So recognizing those strengths and playing to those, it'll just help the overall team have success.
I think that's the neat thing about lacrosse is it's the overall team looking for that goal, that singular goal of winning or whatever you set off. And one of the things you said early on was the fact that you guys did that overnight trip with the leaders of each grade to get together and create that identity of what a coach or what a leader is and what a captain is. Because once you know what your personal brand is and what you want to be living into, that starts to allow you to create those expectations. Now, for you, Cade, how has lacrosse impacted your life beyond being on just the field?
I mean, I can credit basically all my successes and almost all my successes in life to lacrosse. So, I mean, everything from having the opportunity to go to Duke, which there is no way would have happened if I didn't have lacrosse. Not that smart, but to being connected with people in finance, to the job that I have now, to even meeting my girlfriend. So it's funny how it all kind of ties back to lacrosse. So, I mean, it's opened so many doors, and I think it can open a lot of doors. I mean, sports in general do that, but especially lacrosse, just given the community and the types of people that are, interested in helping out other people,
It goes back to the culture and the people that are in this sport. There's such passion and people want to help one another. One of the big things, I've said it before, we really thank your parents for sharing your story of how you went from the hotbed Arizona and making it to a nationally caliber team, making it to the professionals for this sport that we love. Can you share your side of the story? You shared a little bit with the start, but can you elaborate a little bit more about how you identify opportunities, or how you put yourself in a position where you can play at the next level and the level after that?
Yeah, I mean, it's not like there's this secret recipe that I can give out and people can follow and make it there. But a lot of it is being in the right place at the right time and then taking advantage of the opportunities, right? So I think the first thing was Matt Rakowski forcing us to play with two hands at such a young age, forcing us into tournaments on the East Coast where, we might not have normally received an invitation to play. Putting us in uncomfortable situations in those tournaments and competing against the top talent in the country. And then, from there, I was fortunate enough to be contacted by John Ozizi and the West Coast Stars guys. Their push for me to be seen on a national spotlight helped, get me in front of a lot of coaches. They were able to, help me get into some of these showcases like Maverick Showtime and Nike Blue Chip and Nike The Ride. And, that put me in a chance to be seen with some of the coaches at Duke. So I think early on I traveled a lot. I was back east, felt like every weekend during the summer. But I think from the lacrosse side, you almost have to travel back there. I mean, it's getting better there's a lot more West Coast tournaments now that are high caliber tournaments than there were when I was growing up. And, if you can find a way to go to one or two tournaments back east, it just increases your exposure and allows you to play against some of the top talent in the country. The other thing too is it's not just what you do in those opportunities, but what you're doing in the background. So for me, that was football, strength training, and then the extra work that you put in on your own. So I was fortunate enough to live down the street from Anthony Abadessa, and to this day is still one of my best friends, but he and I used to play wall ball. We used to go shoot. We would come up with little games that we'd try to compete in, and we'd do one-on-ones. And I remember after we lost I think it was the first round of playoffs in 8th grade. I was in 8th grade, he was in 9th grade. We went out to the field and we just talked about how there's so much more for us in store, and we wanted to work and get each other to the best possible situation in lacrosse, which is receiving a scholarship, going back east to play in college. And that takes a lot of work. It's not like it's something that's just handed to you. You got to want to put in the time. You got to be on the wall. You got to be, I would say, playing other sports. Lacrosse is great, and there's so many opportunities to do fall tournaments and summer tournaments and spring tournaments and the high school season. Like, you can get into that just dominating cycle. And for me, it was football. Like, that was the best time, was when I got to put my stick down and just focus on hitting somebody for 2 months straight. I think the things that you learn in football, the discipline, the strength training, just the, reading plays as a quarterback, or, finding the ball as a defensive players, has contributed to, in some way or another, to my overall lacrosse game. So whether it's basketball or wrestling or, soccer or football, I think it's important that kids play multiple sports and stop just only having a stick in their hands. Eventually they either get burnt out, or, they're not developing other skills that they could on a different type of field. So again, there's not like a secret for success. I do have to say though, like, pushing myself academically was the best thing that I did, because, Duke is one of the top schools in the country, in the nation, in the world. And to put myself in a chance to even get there, I definitely had to spend a lot of time in the classroom, and I can credit my parents for helping me and pushing me. And, the coaches even working with me a little bit. I was a good student in high school. I studied hard, but, when it came down to it, my freshman year at Duke, I think I had like a 2.5 GPA in my first semester. So it was a wake up call, but everything that I had done, learned, the work ethic that I had built, was able to push me through. And, I knew how to put in the extra work in lacrosse, but you have to learn how to put in the extra work in school too. So again, it was such a right place at the right time, with Matt coming out and starting us, and Anthony playing, and West Coast Stars building out the program that it is today, that there are so many other people that helped me get to this spot. Like, it's you have to come across people that are willing to push you and willing to help you, and then also you got to put in the work. again, there's no secret way of doing it. And it's, the way it worked for me is not replicable for somebody else. You got to recognize that too. And, you gotta be open to hearing people's advice, and got to be open to figuring out what you need to do to improve your game and things that you need to work on. But if it weren't for all those people, then I definitely wouldn't have made it to where I am today. So
there's so much to unpack with that, and I can understand how important the backbone and foundation you have with your family, coaches, teachers, everyone that was there to allow you to build and grow upon that. And there's a few other things that really stick out to me as well that I'd like to dig down deeper. The first is the relationship you have with Anthony Abadessa. You both go on to play Division I, because as an 8th grader and him a 9th grader, you two make basically a pact to be accountability buddies and push each other to be better day by day by day. And you aren't just playing lacrosse, you're juggling school, football, personal responsibilities. You also mentioned putting yourself in uncomfortable situations or being able to be in those situations. I think as young men, we can get into a spot where we want to fit in or be cool, and it's not necessarily cool to be the try hard or putting in that extra work. And I see sometimes that holds people back. How did you go about putting in all this time into a sport and following your dream? What was your mental attitude around that?
I understand where you're coming from, but I think with my friend group, it was the cool thing to do was to be good at sports, right? So we when we hung out, whether it was at like Tate Schmidt's house playing soccer in his backyard, he now plays for Real Salt Lake and played at Louisville, or Brandon Clark, playing basketball in the NBA. I mean, there was a lot of guys who had, Danny Jones running at Colorado. Like there was a lot of athletes at Desert Vista in my grade, and I think like the whole volleyball team ended up playing in college too. So in a way for us, it was cool to be good at sports, and that kind of pushed us. And, I think that you just have to make the decision if you want to play, and if you want to play at the next level. Like again, my friend group loved just hanging out and playing sports, whether it was mini lacrosse in the backyard or football in the fall or whatever it was. Like that was just what we did. And I understand where you're coming from, and I kind of wanted to just address that it is cool to be good at sports and to enjoy playing sports. If people are saying that it's not, then do they not think like LeBron James is cool, or you know what I mean? So some of these guys. So that's just my personal opinion on it. I'm sorry, I don't know if I really answered the question there, but again, it was all about the people that were around me for that too. Like we just, Lance Pavlina wanted to play at the next level. Rafael Vargas, Max Jensen, Steven Bada, Ryan Kuklis, like Anthony Abadessa. It's like all these guys, for us, it was fun to be on that lacrosse team and to play lacrosse. So I don't know if it's kind of a roundabout way of answering that question.
That's the perfect answer though, because that shows what we turn into is a summation of the people we surround ourselves with. So if you're going to accomplish success, you better surround yourself with successful people. If you want to be an athlete, you better surround yourself with athletes. And that's a tone to make sure that anyone who wants to put themselves in that next level should find people that assimilate to that same attitude. Now, where you are right now, Cade, I know you're out in New York, but what are some of the things you could say for the youth right now that are dealing with a lot of adversity? That some of them aren't even in the classroom, they're doing things online. Lacrosse and football are really overlapping right now, or lacrosse is in a totally different place than it was when we were playing. What do you think the youth can do right now to make sure that they're putting themselves in a position to be successful moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, it's a hard question because, if somebody had the answers, they would be made pretty available and people would be addressing it right away. So, the short answer is I don't know. I don't know what I would have done if I was in the situation trying to get recruited and I couldn't go to tournaments. I don't know how I would have done in an academic environment where I wasn't in class. I would say that you just need to make the most of your situation, right? So if you are, doing online classes or not in school, I highly doubt that you're sitting at a desk the entire day. So take a break, go play wall ball, or, go work out, make sure you get your workout in either before or after school or whatever it is. you need to just find a way to make the situation work for you. Don't feel bad about, oh, woe is me. This is a terrible environment. I can't play lacrosse. I mean, you can't play lacrosse. You can play wall ball. You can shoot on the cage. You don't need a ton of people around to do that. The other thing too is, I guarantee if there's someone, at least I really hope for everyone this is the case, but there's someone who, if you asked them to go out with you, they would, and go shoot and go play. For me, it was either Anthony, but also like my dad. I mean, my dad and I went out to the field, and he doesn't know how to use a lacrosse stick, so he uses a baseball mitt. So he'd come out, and he still does to this day. Will roll balls to me. He'll throw the ball to me before I shoot. He'll, do overpasses with me, and we work on some of the fundamental things that I need to do. And, I'll never forget, it was I was in 6th grade, and my dad came to me, and he's like, whatever it is, whatever sport you choose, if you want to make it to the next level, I'll help you get there, but it has to be on you. This can't be a decision that I make for you and try to push you, because it's going to make you resent me, and it's not going to go well for the both of us. But if you come to me and say, I want to play at the next level, like, we'll make it happen. And I made a decision, and, was fortunate enough to be put in the position that I'm in. So I think you as a player need to attack the situation, whatever the situation is.
And that's that personal accountability that continues to come up, Cade, throughout this conversation. You decide to take yourself to the next level. You have the support, but it's you making that decision over and over again. I see that in the stories that I hear of you. So thanks for sharing that. Go ahead.
The other thing too is each person's situation is different. If you aren't able to, I'm not talking about just playing lacrosse. I'm talking about further education in general. If you push yourself in the classroom, like, you'll make opportunities available for you. Yes, it'd be great to play lacrosse at the next level, but the reality is, there's only 170 teams in college lacrosse. That may be totally off. I don't know that for sure, but just finding other ways to improve and get to the next level in some way, shape, or form. It doesn't have to be just in sports.
And that's another great point, and something that Pat Harbison brought up in the conversation we had with him. He said having that dream, that creativity to dream of what's next and be able to start pursuing that. And we create our own dreams for ourselves. We can't let anyone put a dream onto us. It's cool to say, oh, I want to play collegiate lacrosse, I want to be a national champion, but like you said, it's not for everyone, and it's not necessarily the fit. But Cade, I know you're coming back to the Valley in November. Can you share a little bit more about that?
Yeah, so the Premier Lacrosse League puts on a couple clinics throughout the they call it their on season, but really the non-lacrosse season, off season for the players. So they do a couple tours around the different states, put on a couple different types of clinics and camps. So they asked me if I would want to work the one in Arizona on November 14th. So really good group of coaches coming out there to work with some of the kids in Arizona, and I think it's great that they're willing to make an investment and send us out there and set up the fields and go through the process of doing this whole camp and clinic. And so I'm really excited to come work out with some of the lacrosse kids in Arizona. And I think it's on their on the Premier Lacrosse League website, the link to register. I think they still have spots. So definitely come out and learn from some of the best players in the world.
Awesome. I'll definitely share a little bit more about that as well with our communities that we have, and pass on the flyers from you and Alan. Is there anything else going on though, Cade, that we can help support you with? We'll be cheering you on whenever we see you on TV. It's so awesome to see. Anything else on your mind though that you'd like to share with us?
Honestly, I'd like to just say thank you. I mean, the Arizona lacrosse community has done so much for me in general, just in terms of supporting me and watching our games. Dan Lannon and Pete Opart and Bill Lynch and those guys have, set up events to come watch us play, and the continued support that I have out of that region is unbelievable. And, I just want to say thank you to everyone who's been involved in my career, who's helped me get to this point. There's a special group of people, as I keep talking, keep mentioning them. But the kids who are coming up through the ranks right now, if anything, you don't need to be from a Baltimore or a New York or a Long Island or, Philadelphia area to play lacrosse at the next level. I think one thing we're learning is that more and more kids are coming out of different places, and young stars, even, Nakai Montgomery coming out of Texas, myself coming out of Arizona, Bubba Fairman from Utah. there's more and more opportunities to be seen, and more, as the sport continues to grow, don't lose sight of the fact that just because you're from somewhere like Arizona doesn't mean you can't play lacrosse in college. And, I think it is hard, but if it were easy, everybody would do it and it wouldn't be as satisfying. So, to the kids who are still playing in Arizona, who are pushing themselves and trying to navigate the situation, I feel for you guys, but again, if you make the most of the situation, hopefully you guys will have the opportunity to play at the next level and to achieve some of the things. And I would love to see some of these kids start coming out to top Division I programs out of the state. I think that a couple of us have paved the way a little bit, and myself and Anthony and Pierce Bassett from back in the day have kind of put Arizona on the map a little bit. So it'd be cool to see some more guys start to come out. I think there was a couple who committed to like High Point and Richmond. So congratulations to them. I'm looking forward to following their careers a little bit, but to everyone else, keep your head down and grind and make it happen.
Yeah, buddy. Okay. Thank you so much for being on today. Really appreciate you. Good luck with everything that you're up to. We'll definitely be in touch.
Thank you. Appreciate that.